Yo heredé todo lo
El
de él.
equipito. Ríete en familia con la insuperable Melimel y
¿Y
Robertico.
cuánta herencia tú has recuperado?
Aparte de esta.
Sí.
No, ninguna, pero por alguna parte hay que empezar.
Solo en cines, 20 de septiembre.
Welcome into week 3 of the NFL season, and we are back with the consistently Cashin podcast here at BigGuyFantasySports.com, also a member of the full-time Fantasy Podcast Network. There is an article associated with this podcast as well over at BigGuyFantasySports.com, and you can use promo code CC2019 for $5 off your VIP subscription, which gets you access to the article that's associated with this podcast, as well as a plethora of other content on the site. With me, as always, did miss last week, but he's back in the saddle this week. Ron Rigney at The Real Made on Twitter. So, Ron, how are you doing this Saturday morning?
Doing good, man. Trying to get that clutch game streak going again. I owe you a clutch game. I owe Bob a clutch game next week as well. I had to miss both of these because of this little thing that we have that's called life that gets in the way of all this fun stuff that we do. So, happy to be back. Happy to get this new consistency streak going.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, after this week, you'll be 2 for 3, so 67% over the course of the season. It's pretty darn good.
I'll take it.
Yeah, we will definitely take that. But, looking at the week 3 slate, we're coming off of week 2. My lineups have been a little cold, to say the least. So, 1 for 2 on DraftKings, and I am unfortunately 0 for 2 on FanDuel. So we're looking to get back on a right streak myself, if I have to say so. But week 3, there's some interesting games out there. I know if you're playing survivor pools like me, there's really only a couple games that you really feel very confident about. But in terms of DFS, some games that we're targeting, I'll go ahead and go first. I like a lot of people in that Texans-Chargers matchup, and a lot of them come from the Chargers side of the football, and I'll certainly get to that later. And then the other game, I think it's the obvious one here, but Ravens-Chiefs. I mean, it's hard to find somebody who's not fantasy relevant in this game that both teams could score over 30 points. So those are the two big games I'm looking at. What say you at The Real Made on Twitter?
So I'm looking at a couple, and there's a couple. I got two here, and there's one that I find myself with more shares than the other one. But as I looked at the second one a little bit more, I kind of like some of the matchups there. So we're going to go with New Orleans, Seattle off the bat here. And I looked at a couple of these matchups from the New Orleans standpoint, especially at tight end, and Jared Cook was an awfully intriguing option this week. But one of the things that I struggled with a little bit was the fact that Drew Brees is out, yet they still have a pretty stocked arsenal, and I don't know if it necessarily matters who is calling the shots there. I think there's enough to go around. So there's some guys in that game to target, and plus, on the other side, Russell Wilson's a guy you're going to hear me mention quite a bit this week. I think I got some Tyler Lockett in there, but I like their passing game a lot this week. And, Will Dissly's another guy. I don't have him in any lineups, but I was kind of eyeing him. And then the other one I have is that Falcons-Colts game. I don't necessarily have any shares of the Colts. The Falcons' defense has actually been pretty stout so far. They've been pretty decent when you look at them on paper. I think the Colts can put some points up, even with Jacoby Brissett. But the guy that I think I'm going to build around quite a bit, and you're going to hear me talk about him as well, is Devontae Freeman. Devontae Freeman's off to a slow start. I think this matchup sets up well for him. And don't forget the Colts defense, Darius Leonard, the havoc that he wreaks. He is out this week, so that could be good news for Matt Ryan and the passing game as well.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you said yourself, Devonta Freeman has been slow to start. However, take a look at the two opponents he's played the first 2 weeks of the season, and it's understandable why he's been off to a slow start. Now he gets a Colts defense that has been gashed on the run this season. Might be without Darius Leonard as well. And I believe he's likely going to be rolled out, because I believe the last tweet I saw was
he's already rolled out. He's for sure not.
Okay, perfect. Because I know on Friday they had, I believe his name is Anthony Walker. I believe he's a backup lineup or something like that. He was wearing the dot in practice, so meaning that he's going to be calling plays back there. So kind of figured that Leonard was training that way, but yet with him out, definitely opened some holes for Devonta Freeman in the run game. But games we're avoiding, just looking at some of these games, and it's just not that I don't think there's potential. It's just none of my lineups really, drew anybody from the game. And one of them is the Steelers 49ers. I just didn't really get anybody there. I really do like Mason Rudolph, but there's just other quarterbacks I like more. So I don't really have much of that. And then the other game I don't have a ton of is Raiders-Vikings, and I hope it doesn't come back to screw me, not having anybody in there. But it's just a game when it came down to it, guys at those price points in that game, I found other options that I liked just a little bit more. So are there any games that you're definitely avoiding this week, Ron?
The one I don't find myself with any shares of is Green Bay Denver. And not to say that, Aaron Rodgers is in a yearly format is a must start, and Aaron Jones and guys that you draft earlier, they're must starts. But I don't know, this is a road game for Green Bay, I believe. I believe they are at Denver, if I looked at that correctly. I don't have it in front of me. But not a whole lot to like on the Denver side of the ball. I mean, Emmanuel Sanders has been solid, but that Green Bay defense has just been rolling. And I don't find myself with a lot of options that I feel comfortable going with in that game. So that's the one I'm avoiding this week.
Moving away from the games now, we're going to look at players specifically. So we're going to go with our favorite high-priced guy of the week. I'll go ahead and go first here. For me, like I said, I really like the Houston Chargers game, and it's really hard not to look at Keenan Allen. He's been really good so far this season. His injury designation came off on Thursday, I believe, so it's a bit earlier than it has in recent weeks. But you look at his numbers, through the first 2 games of the season, 25 targets, and he's got at least 8 grabs for 98 yards in each of those games. Now he gets to go up against a Houston defense that is struggling, I would say. They did good last week against future Football Hall of Famer Gardner Minshew, but I'm skeptical of what they can do in that secondary. And here's the thing. Houston's good against bad quarterbacks. Their defense is bad against good quarterbacks. So I think Phillip Rivers is going to go for 300-plus yards. And if Rivers is going to do that, Keenan Allen figures to be heavily involved. I think he surpasses 20 points on FanDuel and even 25-plus on DraftKings, like he's nearly has each of the past couple weeks. Your favorite high-placed guy of the week?
And I agree with that 100%. You're going to see tons of Keenan Allen in those lineups this week. So my high-priced options, kind of my shooting fish in a barrel option, I called him in the article, and that's Travis Kelce. And you're going to try to fit in Travis Kelce every week, but spending that $8,000+ on a tight end is a little bit dicey. But a couple things I like here. Number one, I didn't necessarily like a lot of the tight end matchups that I was looking at. And when you look at his, it's against Baltimore, but when you look at Baltimore's defense on paper, they've been stout against the run. They normally have a reputation for that, but they've been kind of middle of the road against the pass. And you mentioned this is one of your games to target, and there could be a lot of points to be had here. You got Tyreek Hill out, obviously. Damian Williams is not playing, and Patrick Mahomes, he likes Travis Kelce anyway. Who would not like to throw to Travis Kelce as a quarterback in this league? So I think he's going to get the ball early. He's going to be targeted often, and I think he's going to really pay off for that high-priced point that you're going to pay for him.
Dropping down in price a little bit. I know who my favorite mid-price guy of the week is, but I definitely want to save him for my bold prediction at the bottom, so I'm going to hold on to him for the time being. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Detroit's Kenny Golladay. The Eagles have allowed the second most fantasy points per game to opposing receivers, and through the first 2 weeks, the Eagles defense has allowed 5 touchdowns to opposing receivers, and Golladay has 2 clutch games and 2 opportunities. So 100% consistency, great matchup, good floor, quarterback that can rack up some yards if need be. Kerryon Johnson likely struggles on the ground. They go to the air attack a little more. Really like Kenny Golladay on both sites. I do think he finds the end zone this week. So FanDuel, DraftKings, whatever, you can definitely get Kenny Golladay in your lineup. And he certainly doesn't break the bank at all. His price point's very favorable. So Golladay for me at the mid-price tier. Ron, where are you looking in this tier? Probably around 6,000 to 7,000 on either site.
I'm going to go wide receiver also, and I'm going to go with a guy that's struggled a little bit, and that's Mike Evans. And, part of his struggles are the guy that's throwing the football in Jameis Winston. But I like the Tampa receivers in general here, but I'm going to go with Evans just because he is a little bit cheaper. And he's not the player that he's shown the first couple times out, hasn't recorded a clutch game yet. I think that changes this week. They're against a Giants team that's near the bottom, allowing 321 yards per game passing through the first 2 weeks of the season. I think he gets off the schneid. I think he gets targeted early and often. I think we'll see him hit the end zone this week. But I love him at that price point, which is just over 6,000, I think, on both sides, if I remember correctly.
And that's the thing with Mike Evans here. I like him a lot as well, so I'm definitely going to have some shares of him. I do like Chris Godwin as well. Godwin does get the easier matchup, but Evans does save you a couple $100, so that is certainly something to consider. Low-priced play of the week. This one's a little tougher. I'll go ahead and give you 2. The first of which I liked a lot earlier in the week, but now I think it's going to be a little less enticing. I really like Travis Benjamin against Houston. They struggle with speed receivers, but with Mike Williams back and healthy, Keenan Allen's healthy. The only one that's missing is Hunter Henry, so I think his targets will be dropped a little bit compared to if Mike Williams were sitting with that knee issue that bothered him coming into week 2. But he takes a little bit of a step back. I do like J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and Nelson Aguilar. They should both see some extra time with injuries to, even though Alshon's going to play, Deshaun Jackson, I expect, is out. So they'll see some added run there. But I'll go with the chalky play here, and I'll just say Frank Gore. He's going to get plenty of work. Shady's gone. Devin Singletary's out. He's probably the only guy in the backfield. All Buffalo wants to do is run the football. So Frank Gore, and I believe he's at like 4,400 on one site, and he's cheap on the other one. I think he's 4,400 on DraftKings, and on FanDuel he's cheap as well. So it's hard not to put him in the lineup this week given his price point and his expected workload. So who's your favorite low-price guy of the week?
So I kind of alluded to this earlier, and this is one that scares me a little bit because when I was looking at the tight ends, I think it was the hardest one for me to come up with the guy that I like. But I think that, for the reasons I said earlier about that New Orleans-Seattle game, I think Jared Cook's a guy you can look at to save a little bit of money at tight end if you can't afford Kelsey. He's only at $5,800. And I look at whoever's going to be in at quarterback. You've got Teddy Bridgewater, you've got Taysom Hill lurking in the background as well. I think either one is very capable of running that offense. But as much as it scares me a little bit, at the same time, I kind of like it just because that tight end is kind of known for being that check down option. And when you have a backup guy in there, you might need him to check down a little bit more. So Jared Cook at $5,800, he may not be the flashiest. He may not be, the most consistent, especially over the first 2 weeks. Like he's definitely off of what we saw last year and definitely not at that level. But I think at $5,800 going against a pretty favorable matchup because Seattle's pretty low against the pass as well. I think they're around 30th or so. So matches up pretty well there, but I think that, like I said, he's going to be a decent check down option for whoever's a quarterback.
Yeah, I know on Thursday night I was on the podcast with Bob, and I definitely expressed some sizable concern with Jared Cook. So we'll have to see how it comes or how it goes going into week 3 here. But Ron, I'll let you roll right into this here. I'll let you start it off here for us. Your week 3 building block of the week. Who's that one guy you're going to have in about 99.9% of any DFS lineups you create, or you're going to try like heck to get him in there?
Well, and it worked out just because I like the matchup, and he's not necessarily an expensive guy, but I think he's a guy that's poised for a big week, and that's Devonta Freeman. And I mentioned him earlier. Devonta Freeman has had a horrible start the first couple of weeks, but you pointed out too, he has had a couple of tough matchups. And one of the things that's a little bit deceiving about him as well, he's kind of down further in the rushing stat rankings. I think he's only got like 41 total yards in the year, but he does have 54 receiving yards, and that ranks him a little bit higher up as far as running back. So he is catching the ball out of the backfield as well. Falcons offense, I think, is going to be solid. It's going to kind of roll throughout the season. But we mentioned Darius Leonard out this week. I think this, and Dan Quinn kind of came out this week and said he still has a lot of confidence in Devonta Freeman. He's still going to get him the ball. So I think for at least the time being, I don't think you can chalk it up to injury. I think he's still going to get touches. I think this shapes up nicely for him. And like I said, he's a cheap player. I believe he's only like 6,600 on FanDuel, if I remember right. So it allows you to get the Travis Kelce's in of the world or any of the high-priced quarterbacks you want to try to go with if you want to get some shares of Mahomes or Lamar Jackson in that KC-Baltimore game. But I've got Devonta Freeman in both my lineups, and I'm hoping for big things. I think he can give you some solid production this week. And you might hear his name a little bit later on in our bold prediction segment as well. That's what we call foreshadowing.
Yeah, I like that. I definitely like that. I like Freeman. I like the foreshadowing. Honestly, I like it all on the Saturday morning heading into a full Sunday slate of football action. But for me, I'm going with Austin Eckler. And last year, you didn't want to pick anybody against that Houston defense or any running back, especially if they were run heavy. However, pass catching backs have given Houston fits. And you look at Eckler here through the first 2 weeks, at least 6 grabs, at least 6 targets, at least 67 receiving yards in each of the first 2 weeks. He's got a rushing touchdown in each of the first 2 games, even scored 2 receiving touchdowns in week 1 against your Colts. Looking at his total yards, he's eclipsed 100 total yards in each of the first 2 games. I think he's versatile enough to give this Houston defense some problems, and Eckler's a guy that I'm looking to get in every single lineup. I like Freeman as well, but for me, I'm going to pay a little bit extra to make sure I can get Austin Eckler. And I think also you might be hearing his name a little bit later in the bold prediction segment as well. So we did a bad job here with I guess double foreshadowing. I guess more is better. I guess. Who knows?
Well, I'm gonna disagree with you because we've hooked you now, and you want to know what else we're gonna say about him. So see, I think it worked the opposite way. I think that it had the opposite effect. Everybody's just sitting on the edge of their seats, waiting to see what we said.
And I could have lied. I might not even be talking about Austin Eckler until I wrap it up.
There you go.
You know, good luck.
What now?
Who knows? Yeah, you don't know what's coming.
What?
You don't know, but you know what we'll
do.
So,
hey, real quick before we move on, though, go for it. Go for it.
No, I was just going to get ready to sound the bell for the bold predictions, but if you have something to say before the bell,
okay,
go ahead.
I'm glad there that you picked on my Colts real quick because that illustrates my point about Devontae Freeman as well with Austin Eckler. You saw what he did week 1. Devontae Freeman gets the Colts this week without Darius Leonard again, ladies and gentlemen, so it makes me like that matchup even a little bit more.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you just heard that, Ron, but that was the bell, and that's the bold prediction bell that you hear at the Consistently Cashin podcast here at BigGuyFantasySports.com and member of the full-time fantasy podcast network. So it's time for Ron Rigney on Twitter at The Real Ma Days. Bold prediction for week 3.
So since I was out last week, I'm going to give you 2.
Oh.
First one, you actually mentioned this guy earlier, okay? I predict that tomorrow, Gardner Minshew II, which, by the way, I don't know if you know, his dad named him the second. There's no Gardner Minshew the first. I don't know if you're aware of that.
No, Gramps wanted to name him Beowulf.
Even better. So I think that somehow tomorrow, Gardner Minshew finds a way to throw for 303 scores for the simple fact that he's a man. He's a man. And I know he played Thursday night. I know he's already played this week. But you know what? He's Gardner Minshew. He has a mustache. He's going to do it. He's going to find a way. Okay. Yeah. I think he's kind of the Chuck Norris of our generation, possibly.
Whoa.
Yeah. You want a bold prediction? That's bold prediction. Okay. So my second one, mentioned this guy a lot, Devontae Freeman tomorrow, 125 total yards, 2 touchdowns.
Dang. All right. Well, mine. Let's go ahead and ring the bell. Let's quality here. Everybody gets their shot with the bell.
Mm-hmm.
Mine's Austin Eckler, and I'm at 130 total yards with a touchdown. So we were very similar there. If I weren't going to go with him, I'll even go a little bit bolder, and I'll say Kenny Golladay has at least 10 receptions in this game against the Eagles. Yeah, so those are the 2 I'm looking at, and both of them are in in my lineup. And again, you can find that in the Consistently Cashin article at BigGuyFantasySports.com. Ron and I each contribute a FanDuel and DraftKings lineup to the cause, and we'll have to see what we come away with in week 3. Hope, especially for my line, especially my FanDuel lineup, hoping to get off the schneid and get into the win column here. A little slow there to start, and then just try to regain some of that consistency. But once we get moving in the weeks ahead, we'll have a better idea of clutch games percentages, and we'll have a little bit of stronger of a sample size to go off of. But before we wrap this up, Ron, any parting shots for the listeners and or week 3 in general?
Just have fun. Always good when we have a full slate before we get to these bye weeks. I wanted to add in as well, just to kind of plug our site and plug some stuff we've got behind the paywall on that VIP site. I was just talking to Colby before we went on the air, and I kind of dove into the prop bet tool a little bit this week. If you guys haven't paid for the upgrade there, go get that. Go use that prop bet tool. There's prop bet sites all over the place. I believe FanDuel, DraftKings both even have one. That thing is insane how easy it is to use and how good it's been so far. I know Bob's had a lot of success with it. I'm just kind of dipping my toes in the water. Colby, I know you use it as well. And it's something that I played with a little bit yesterday, and I'm beyond impressed with it. So go and pay your $19.99. Use the code. Go in there, get it, use it, win some money.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's something where you get a lot of good stuff, if I must say so myself. You know, here's the thing with it. So it comes at $19.99. However, Bob appraises it at a $26 value. So you're already getting $7 off. With the VIP package, you get unlimited access to all articles posted on the site from now till the end of the season. That's a win. Unlimited access to the Clutch Report now until the end of the season. There's another win. The FSWA award-winning 2019 Fantasy Football Consistency Guide. That's a win. Unlimited updates to the tier draft list. Bingo. Unlimited access to the Prop Bet Consistency tool. You obviously get our Consistently Cashin here. You also get the Prop Bet podcast and article with that as well. And a special email address to send to fantasy football questions, which Bob will answer personally. And, that's $19.99. but you can go ahead and use promo code CC2019, and that stands for Consistently Cashin, not Colby Conway, just so everybody is aware there. CC2019, you get $5 off. So this went from a $26 value to a $19 value to $14.99. Go ahead, sign up. Join us all over there. Go ahead and shoot us some questions on Twitter, whatever you want to do, but make sure you get that VIP subscription, and then make sure you go check out our Consistently Cashin article where we have a few other players we didn't talk about here on this podcast. We wrote up about them, wrote some stats about them, and we contributed our lineups, and you can catch that for the rest of the season. So once again, make sure you get that VIP subscription, promo code CC2019 to get $5 off. Best of luck in your Week 3 lineups, and as always, stay consistent, and best of luck to each and every one of you.
Critics and audiences everywhere are hooked on Hustlers.
Yeah, girl!
Rolling Stone raves this you don't want to miss. It's brashly entertaining, and GQ magazine proclaims don't miss the year's best movie.
Are you in?
Hustlers, now playing in theaters. Rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans. 30% of Americans who are planning home improvements of $5,000 or more will pay for those renovations with a high-interest credit card. That may not be a great idea. A better idea may be to take cash out of your home with a Quicken Loans 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. The rate today on our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 4.125%. APR 4.22%. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rate subject to change. Pay 0.88% fee to receive this discounted rate. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. License in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.